Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Michelle Plans Travel. I'm a travel advisor in Ontario, Canada, and this week the video is part one in a part two series of something I think is extremely important to talk about, and that's travel insurance. I've had quite a few clients sit with me and tell me that they're not going to purchase travel insurance because they're going to go on their trip no matter what happens. But I have seen firsthand what happens when the unexpected occurs. Things like unexpected illness diagnoses, relationship breakups, and in the case I can't forget, when one child fell off a roof, broke his leg in 3 places, and had to be placed in traction. So today I'm going to break down in simple terms what travel insurance is and what you're actually purchasing. And I think it's important to note before we get started that everything we buy in travel has its own terms and conditions. So each flight, depending on the airline and depending on the class of service, will have different terms and conditions. Every hotel booking can be different. Every tour can be different. Cruises, and then the all-inclusives. And what's important to know, I think, with all-inclusives, because we get this question a lot, and people think that they can get their money back up until sort of right before departure, the terms and conditions for those become quite strict once you're within 3 weeks before departure. And we all know that a lot of things can happen within those last 3 weeks. The travel insurance protects you financially when things don't go according to plan. It's not just medical insurance. It can protect your trip, your baggage, and your travel investment. Now, I do think that emergency medical coverage is probably the most important travel insurance that you can purchase. And I do make sure that all of my clients are protected somehow, whether they purchase it from myself or they are protected through another benefits plan or even another insurance provider. We just want to make sure that they're covered. And why? Because the Ontario Health Insurance Plan, or OHIP, doesn't provide hardly any coverage outside of Canada. It's very, very limited. So if you had to go to a hospital, if you had to use an ambulance, if you had to go see a doctor, if you had to get a cast or any prescription medication, or you need to be treated in any way, those things would not be covered by OHIP. So you would either need to pay out of pocket for them, or you need to have medical insurance that will pay for you. Something that's really interesting to note, and I've actually had this question quite a lot recently, is will my OHIP card cover me outside of the province if I'm still in Canada? And the answer is it will a little bit. So things like basic doctor or hospital visits and treatments should technically be covered under a reciprocal agreement between provinces. However, if you need more in-depth coverage, or if you need to stay for a longer amount of time, if you need to have a surgery, those things may not be covered. And there are actually plans you can buy specifically for Canada to help cover you when you're out of province. Medical insurance is really important because we all know it just takes one little thing to potentially ruin your trip, whether it be treading on a piece of broken glass on a beach or stepping off a curb in the US and breaking your ankle, like my mom did. And we all know that one night in a US hospital room may cost thousands of dollars. That's something I wouldn't want to be on the hook for, and I don't want any of my clients to be on the hook for either. So trip cancellation protects you before your trip starts. So you purchase your trip, you purchase the cancellation insurance, and then if you need to cancel before you leave for your trip, that's the insurance that kicks in. And it generally covers the covered reason. So things like an illness, an injury, a death in the family, jury duty, certain work requirements, so mandated services or deployments. And it will also cover things like natural disasters that occur as long as things weren't sort of happening when you purchased the travel insurance itself. It's important to note that you can't cancel simply because you changed your mind. Trip interruption insurance covers you once you've left on your trip while you're there. And this is the coverage that would help you get home if there was a reason for you to leave in the middle of your trip. So whether that be that there was a family emergency at home, or there was again, a natural disaster in the place that you're staying, usually they will cover an economy flight and get you on that as soon as possible to get you home. And that's a nice thing to have because we all know that last minute flights can be very, very expensive to pay for. Delay and baggage insurance. What are those? So baggage is pretty self-explanatory. This will cover either your baggage being lost, it can cover baggage damage, and it can also cover a baggage delay. So if you end up in Rome and your bags don't, and you need to get through the next couple of days, it will give you a certain amount of money to go and buy necessities until your bag arrives. Travel delay covers things like missed connections or weather interruptions, mechanical issues, things like that. And that normally is either a delay going on your trip or a delay coming home. And I have an example of that myself when there was a huge snowstorm in February 2023 and we were coming home from Hawaii and they rerouted our flights and we ended up having to spend 2 nights out west in Canada before we could get home to Toronto. And so we did have to pay out of pocket for those, but we were able to claim them back through our insurance under the trip delay portion of the insurance. Now, some insurances do have a cancel for any reason or a CFAR that you can either add onto it or it's included in the package. Now, these types of insurances are usually more expensive because they give you more flexibility. So usually you can cancel pretty much for any reason up to a certain time before the trip, and then they will reimburse you a certain amount of your trip. For example, in some of the plans that I have seen, you can cancel up to a week before the trip and claim 80% of your trip costs back for any reason at all. And once you get within a week of departure, you can claim either 80% or $2,500 per person, whichever is greater. There are other plans out there too that allow you to claim up to 50% back if it's 2 weeks or more out. So it really depends on the insurance, and it's important that you read those different notes. Sometimes you can get a good deal on a plan that combines your cancellation insurance, your trip interruption, your trip delay, your baggage, and your medical insurance. And oftentimes, those also don't require a medical questionnaire. They're really good if you're a little bit older. A lot of the medical questionnaires kick in at age 59 and over. So if you're unsure or if there's something that you kind of know might make you cancel your trip and you really need to have that cancel for any reason, those are good packages to look at. I do want to mention supplier plans here. So most of the all-inclusive suppliers that we have in Canada, so Sunwing, WestJet Vacations, Air Canada Vacations, and Transat, they all do offer what they call trip protection. So it's important to note that it's not really cancellation insurance. It does not cover anything to do with interruption or delay and doesn't cover bags at all. And very few of them, right now, I think it's just Sunwing, does have a medical portion to it that you can opt into if you want to. But they do offer them, and they do help protect your trip in terms of you're able to sometimes cancel for any reason up to a certain number of days before the trip, and you will either get a refund to the original form of payment or a travel credit, or sometimes you can change your trip to a later date and not pay a change fee. Some cruises and tours also offer their own sort of package of insurance, and it's really good to go through what is offered by those cruises and tours to see if it's worthwhile to you. Sometimes if you have coverage through, again, another means, so another benefits package, or if you have credit card insurance and you want to combine some different things, as long as you do the research and find out what's actually going to be covered and what's your best options, then you've got lots of different things you can look at. So that's a really brief overview of what travel insurance is. And now that you know what it is, the next video is going to talk about why you should have it and common mistakes that I see people make all the time. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what you see on my channel, please like and subscribe to Michelle Plans Travel and follow along as we go on this journey together.